The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everybody. I appreciate your patience. We've had a long day, so we just concluded our day meeting just a little while ago and had a little bit, inhaled some Chinese food before we got here tonight. But thank you for your patience and waiting for us. We have some special guests in the audience tonight, and well, I was actually going to do that first, but we can do a roll call first. Do you want to do roll call first? Let's do a roll call. No, let's do a roll call. Because I was going to do that because that wasn't really on the agenda. It was a special something. So, but we'll do a roll call. Let's do a roll call.
Miranda, Maniscalco, Hertek, Young, Vieira, Carlson, Clendenin.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
And as you can tell, council, we are down 2 council persons this evening. Councilman Miranda and both Councilman Vieira are out, prearranged absences. Apologize for that. What you see is what you get tonight. Anyway, back where I was, we have some very special guests this evening. Those of you that are wearing crowns and those of you that are accompanying the ones wearing crowns, would you please approach the podium, stand up and come forward? Who's going to talk and tell us who you are and why you're here tonight? Okay, go ahead. Start with your name. Start with your name.
My name is Michaela Grace, and we are, well, us three, we're Miss Juneteenth Tampa Bay, Miss, Junior Miss, and Little Miss, and the rest of us are National Juneteenth Ambassadors, and we just came to say a quick speech and congratulate Nia Young on her spot as Councilwoman.
Outstanding. So did you say you had something else to say, or was that good?
Yes, I have a speech.
Please go.
Good evening, City Council and community members. My name is Michaela Grace Newsom, and I proudly serve as your Miss Juneteenth Tampa Bay 25-26. This afternoon, my National Juneteenth Ambassador sisters and my Juneteenth Queen sisters accompany me, and we would have more representation, but some of us had to attend. Our conference night, and they couldn't attend. So we have joined here together to celebrate a new chapter of leadership, one that reflects the promise of progress and the power of purpose. We're here to honor Councilwoman Nia Young, a young woman who gives hope back to our neighborhoods. She didn't just run on policies, she ran on principles. She didn't just seek a position, she sought to make a difference. And her platform reminded us that every child deserves a sidewalk to walk on to school. Affordable housing isn't a privilege, it's a right. Parks should be open, safe, and full of laughter. Summer jobs are pathways for the youth. Councilwoman Nia Young has her eyes on the future, and that future wears backpacks and walks to school each morning. She spoke for children whose voices are often unheard, for parents balancing rent and groceries, for grandparents raising grandchildren on fixed incomes, and for communities too long overlooked. This victory represents more than one young woman's winning seat. It represents a generation finding its voice. She shows us that leadership isn't about age. It's about alignment with purpose. Her win reminds us that when young people believe they can lead, and when a community believes enough to stand behind them, transformation begins. Councilwoman will fan that spark into a steady flame. And as you take your seat, remember, you carry on the dreams of the children, the hopes of parents, and the trust of a community that your community will walk beside you, pray for you, and work with you to build a brighter city you have envisioned. So this evening, we don't just say congratulations. We say thank you. Thank you for daring to run. Thank you for believing that change begins right here, right now. Thank you for putting faith first, children first, and community first. And Councilwoman Young, your journey has just begun. May God bless you, may God bless our city, and may God bless the generations you're helping to rise. Congratulations. Thank you. We are proud of you.
Councilwoman Young.
I've been doing really good with not crying. One thing, my fellow council members, you'll learn that the children are my soft spot, and so you all have got some tears out of me this evening. Thank you so much. That was so eloquently and beautifully put, and one of the reasons why I ran was because of youth, and I want you all to be able to see all the amazing things that you can do. And so I heard some of you out there say some of the dreams and aspirations that you have, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you all really do those things. I'm looking forward to seeing them come to fruition, because you all are the future, and the reason why, we're up here and we, are trying to do the best that we can is because you all are gonna, be here and hopefully carry those things on. So I am so honored and humbled to hear from you all, and I thank you so much. I didn't know y'all were coming, but this is the best surprise ever. So I'm so elated. Thank y'all so much. That was beautiful.
Why don't you guys come up and take a picture with Councilwoman Young up here?
We took our pictures already.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you? Oh, you did? Oh, okay, you did.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. You want to come up anyway?
Yeah, come take one with the council.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I'm just upset they didn't bring me a tiara.
I'll put her in front. Oh, she's short. Yeah. Great job, you guys.
Give it 1 second to clear out. Okay, Planning Commission, I believe you're going to start with the clearing of the agenda. I heard that the Planning Commission was going to do the first one. So I heard. A little birdie told me.
All right. Good evening. Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. Today I'm going to, we have an email from the applicant regarding item 2 on the agenda. It's file number TACPA 2411. They are requesting a continuance to the January 15th, 2026 public hearing. This is the 5th continuance. This would be the 5th continuance granted on this item, so I wanted to bring that to your attention. I'm available to answer any questions.
Does council have any questions? Councilman Maniscalco.
5 times? I mean, this is, why so many continuances? I've been here for 10 years, and I don't think I've seen 5 continuances on any item.
I think that's a question for the applicant.
Okay.
Anybody have a question for staff? Councilwoman Hurtak?
Yeah, I have a question for staff. Like, regardless of what happens, we need to create a policy around continuances for comp plans. Is that something that we would do with the Planning Commission, or is that something we would need to do just with our staff?
We did recently update the procedures manual for plan amendments. So there is a rule in there that council needs to make a decision on an item within 180 days following the Planning Commission public hearing. Since this this plan amendment was submitted before that was adopted, it's subject to the procedures of the old procedures manual, which doesn't have a rule.
Okay, so, but we do now have an updated, so this
Yes.
won't happen again.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Truett Gardner, 400 North Ashley Drive, on behalf of the applicant. If you would, I'll try to explain the reason for the continuance. And this is a tough, complicated application. We've got a vacating, a rezoning, a comp plan amendment. We're in the ARC, so we've been back and forth with 3 different hearings in front of the ARC and a bonus agreement as well. What we have promised, we've been very transparent with every neighborhood association and every neighbor that we've worked with. And this slide that I put up on the Elmo is what we have literally shown people from the beginning, which, if you will, the stack here is the comprehensive plan amendment, the PD, and the alley. And our promise to everybody that we've worked with on this is we don't want the comp plan to proceed without the rezoning being married to it, because this gives us the right, 1, to ask for the hotel use that we're requesting, and 2, the density that we're requesting too. And they felt like in all the conversations we had, they'd be granting us a blank check without the security of the PD and the conditions within the PD. And so our pledge to them from the beginning has been, we will run these together. So yes, we've had multiple requests for continuance on the comp plan, but that's all to get these hearings to match up. We were actually ready to proceed tonight with all of our applications, but we heard after we had submitted our final site plan that solid waste wanted us to redesign the whole area there. That caused us to do that. January 15th is our only option because we still haven't gotten their final approval, and we're past the deadline to be in December, so that then prompted January. That threw us into a contractual situation where we had to make amendments. But the soonest that we can get all of those tied together is this January 15th date. We would have loved to be proceeding tonight with all of them, but solid waste made that request, and that's caused this continuance request.
Mr. Shelby, can you remind council what the rules are for applicants' requests for continuance with less than a full council?
Those are, that applies to quasi judicial. I have Rule 6C. Do you want to hear that now? About
We
Rule 6C?
can wait till this is done.
Okay.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
So I'm confused because you said you wanted the comp plan to go with the rezoning, but here's the thing. A comp plan is a forever change. A PD doesn't have to get built. So to me, that is not a good reason to put them together, and it's actually why I personally do not like to hear things on the same night. A comp plan is something that is never going to change.
Right.
A PD, just because we approve it doesn't mean you're ever going to build it. You could sell the land and they could build something different. So I don't like to hear the word guarantee, because this is not a guarantee, and I want the public to understand that.
Yep, I absolutely respect that. Mary Lou Bailey is who we've been working with in Hyde Park, and we've worked with her in the past, and she likes those conditions and the security that comes with it, acknowledging that that can always be amended or not even be built. But from the beginning, she and others didn't feel it was right to do the comp plan first, open up Pandora's box without those controls that would come with that PD, fully acknowledging that it could be amended or not built at all.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, first of all, we've had arguments about, or discussions about whether these things should go together anyway. I think this is too many times, and when we're ready to make motions, I'm happy to make a motion to deny it.
I would just add, this is our first continuance request on the rezoning and the vacating. It's only been,
I'm sorry, yes, I just want to be clear on that. We're not discussing the rezoning.
Correct.
But this is, I don't want to make that clear for council. You're only discussing the TACPA 24-11, the future land use amendment.
and then if that's going to be the situation here, I would say with 5 council members, we do have procedural due process rights, and we would like a full council. So that wasn't the reason going in, but we would like a full council, and the first date that we can be in compliance with our rezoning as well as with this is that January 15th date.
Mr. Shelby.
Yes.
Now I'm ready to hear.
Are you ready to hear with regard to TACPA?
I'm ready to hear your ruling on an applicant's rights for
A continuance?
a continuance and with a less than full council.
Well, let me share with you, with regard to a quasi-judicial matter, which is going to be coming up, what would apply. And then we'll talk about.
Right now, we're just talking about.
I know that, but I think you should know that there's a distinction. It doesn't say as to a legislative matter. So let me start at the beginning then. Okay, Rule 4A, 4 council members shall constitute a quorum. 4 votes shall be required to effect official action on all matters coming before council, except when state law requires a supermajority. The ayes and the nays shall be taken upon the passage of all ordinances or resolutions. Then we go to the quasi-judicial hearing section, Rule 6, because this applies in quasi-judicial cases, and I want people to know that there's a distinction, that it does not say anything with regard to legislative matters. If at a quasi-judicial public hearing, only 4 members of city council are available to take action, then any petitioner shall have the right to continue the matter until there are a minimum of 5 members. If there is less than a full council, then a petitioner may request to continue a matter, but it will not be as a matter of right.
Okay, so the petitioner may request a,
Yeah, so,
no, it said even
No.
less than a full.
but what he's
council.
saying is that, what he's saying is even on those, we only have to guarantee 5, and we have 5, so it's moot anyway. What about public comment as to the constituents? Do we offer that?
We haven't gotten there yet.
So can we make motions now or not?
Yeah, well, the question
If
is,
we're going to accept public comment, then we're not going to make motions.
are you ready at that stage now?
Only to the continuance.
Only to the, if that's council's pleasure. Is there anything else, Mr. Gardner?
No.
Okay, Mr. Chairman?
Is the council's pleasure to request, receive public comments on the continuance? Okay. If you are here and you'd like to speak on the continuance only, not the substance of the issue, but only on the continuance of this item, please stand against the wall, and I'll call you up one at a time. What's that?
Well, actually, we should make a motion no.
No, it's not.
Yes, make a motion to open the public hearings for this evening entirely.
Even though we're just clearing the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Can I get a motion to open all public hearings? We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Thank you very much. Yes,
Now,
ma'am?
if I can, before people
oh,
begin, I'm sorry, I just want to make something clear to the members of the public and to City Council. Because Council has been receiving emails, and there's a lot of confusion as to the 3 different applications that are pending on the same particular parcel. Those 3 different applications have different criteria under the code, and they have different due process rights that may or may not attach to it. So I just want to be clear that what we're talking about for the continuance for this item is that this is the plan amendment, the comprehensive plan amendment, and that is a legislative matter. It is not quasi-judicial. Mr. Chairman, so I'm going to ask you to do is to, Mr. Gardner, may I ask him to be called back up, please, before we go to public comment?
Yes, Mr. Gardner.
Mr. Gardner, I believe you're familiar with council's rules with regard to continuances, first continuances.
Yes.
And you had said that first continuances on the agenda apply to the rezoning, the REZ case, and the VAC case, the vacate.
Correct.
Now, with regard to the rezoning, as I recall correctly, you submitted an email on the 31st of October.
We're not at the rezoning.
I know that, but I want to make this clear for the public, that as per council's rules, as a matter of right, I suspect you're going to be saying that council will continue the REZ, the rezoning. Is that your intention?
Correct.
So I want the public to be aware of that now, because under council's rules, they would be entitled for the rezoning to go forward, to be continued as a matter of right. Do we have agreement and understanding?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you. So what I'm saying to the public, please, is you're here to speak, and the council's requesting that you speak to the continuance, whether you're opposed or whether you're in favor of it, as to only the comprehensive plan amendment. Thank you.
Not the rezoning. So this is, we haven't gotten to that part of the clearing of the agenda, but that part of the agenda, it will be cleared and the rezoning will not be heard tonight. This is only about the comprehensive land. Okay, thank you.
Can I?
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, you kind of said this, and Marty kind of said this, but just for the public to know, if you start to comment on anything other than the continuance, the chair's going to cut you off to keep the legal record correct. It's not anything personal, but we can't open up all the other discussions right now. It's just about the continuance.
Okay, very good. I think we've had enough housekeeping. Yes, please. Start with your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Michelle Vadalero, and I'm here as a member of the Historic Hyde Park Art Gallery. And when we received notice that there was going to be a continuance asked for, and it was presented to us as it was kind of a done deal, even though you shouldn't believe that, many of our members didn't come. Many people from the neighborhood didn't come because we anticipated really stacking the house. So I guess my request is, if this matter is going to be continued, can it be put on a date other than January 26th, which we understand is going to be or the January date, where there's going to be another contentious matter. I've been here till 3 in the morning before. I don't want to see another one of those, but, can we be put on a hearing where we will be the number one item and it won't be with something else? That's my comment.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Start with your name. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Joe Hanlon, and my address is 701.5 West Swann. I live at the corner of Swann and Brevard, where my wife and I have lived there for 12 years. We're opposed to this project, and we are trying.
Remember, this is only about the comprehensive land.
I think I understand that, for a continuance, but it sounds to me like the comprehensive land amendment is going to be part of the zoning and part of the progress of this project.
It's only about the land usage, not about the project itself.
They're going to, right now it's zoned for 71 units, correct?
That's not in the record.
We can't discuss that, sir.
Comprehensive land use, well, I want to go on record for opposing this project and asking the council to recognize the commitments of the 3 planning staffs that have rejected this proposal.
Sir, the only thing you can talk about, sir, is whether you are in favor of having it continued or whether you oppose having it continued. That's the only really discussion that we're being permitted to have.
I oppose the continuance and in general trying to oppose this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Good evening and congratulations, Councilman Young. Appreciate you being there. Sorry the other 2 aren't here. My name Bobby O'Brien, that used to be the old sign-off. Sorry, I've had it for 40 years. Bobby O'Brien, 702 West Bay Street, Tampa, 33606, within yards of this property. I was against the continuance, sent an email as such on Monday until I learned further. I'm going to have my law degree by the end of all of this. I am for the continuance now for a couple of different reasons. Most importantly, as my colleague pointed out, many of our expert witnesses decided not to come because of receiving the continuance, feeling that it was a fait accompli, and I have better time. I'll save that until January. I second her motion. January 15th is when I understand the Davis Island Mirasol has been rescheduled, to have that one and to have this proposed hotel on the same docket would be a long evening that's unfair to you all and certainly to residents and even to the developers. So I am for the continuance, but only because of the way the scenarios have come out. And I didn't hear the final resolve, but I'd like to know what the city rules are now when it comes to continuances for comp plans. And lastly, I'm with the Spanish Town Creek Civic Association. We represent that community and the piece of property where they want to put this hotel, not others in HPPI. And even though they might be negotiating with someone who's more friendly, that's disingenuous at best, because the people who live right next to that property are more deserving to be negotiated with. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, start with your name, please. You have 3 minutes.
Kathleen Durden, 1820 West Richardson Place. I'm also president of Tampa Regional Artists, which is at 705 West Swann Avenue in the block immediately to the west of the property. I want to echo everybody else. We had a large number of people who were planning on coming tonight, but when we heard that there was a request for continuance, we told them they didn't have to come. So I'd be for the continuance, but I definitely am against the January 15th date, the idea of having this and the Marisol heard on the same night, which the same attorney has both properties, is really a disservice to you and a disservice to all the residents. And I really also want to echo, we are in Spanish Town Creek, the property is in Spanish Town Creek. Talking to one person or one neighborhood association, which is not the part of that, and saying that they are in agreement of this whole idea of everything going lickety-split together, none of the rest of us are in favor of that. We all believe that the comp plan needs to be heard, echoing councilperson.
This is only the continuance, remember.
Right, okay, but, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, start with your name.
Name Joe Hafner, address 417 South Hyde Park. Just wanted to confirm what two other speakers said, that currently you have the Marisol project scheduled for January 15th. If you continue this one, could you look at February? Because nobody wants to go back to back on these two projects, and I don't think you want to be here till 3 in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, start with your name, please.
My name is Pam Canella, and I back up what they all said. But I want to make it clear, Mary Lou Bailey is one person in one association of Hyde Park. There are 3. She doesn't represent everyone in that area of Hyde Park, HPPI. She represents a small elite group. This confusion wouldn't have happened if she didn't take it upon herself to think that she's speaking for all of us. She doesn't. HPPNA have not had the privilege of conference with the applicant, and neither has Spanish Creek. And this is where the problem lies. So I suggest that he go back and speak to all of the Hyde Park Association members. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Okay, that closes public comment. I have a question for staff. On anybody who's doing the scheduling for this for January, is the other project they referred to, has that been scheduled for January 15th?
That might be a question for city staff.
Anybody that has that information?
It's tentatively scheduled.
Sorry, what's your name?
Sorry, Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination.
But is it scheduled?
It's not scheduled.
Okay. And would this factor in? Do you guys factor into your planning if, let's say, this gets scheduled on January 15th, the fact that this type of project is on the same schedule, do you factor that into your scheduling?
Yes, we take that into consideration.
So they would be the first, then if this was changed, this would be the first project to get scheduled on the 15th?
We would take that into consideration.
Okay. Very good, okay.
Matt,
Yes, go ahead.
Can we put it in February?
No, what she's saying is that, so this would be the first one on the schedule.
But she didn't say definitively that she wouldn't put the other one on. She said that they would take that into
So
consideration.
that wouldn't be our call, though.
Question to council, Mr. Chairman. You're chatting. I sure will.
Yeah, come on.
We haven't set those cases, Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. It appears that Marisol is going to be scheduled. It's not on the schedule, but we have not set those cases yet, so.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
So then, could we schedule this for February 12th?
I'm sorry, Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination, you would have to make a motion.
Okay.
In order for these to be heard first.
Oh,
In order for your,
I'm sorry, could
Go
you
ahead.
repeat what you said? Martin Shelby, for the record.
you would have to, right?
The council, I believe in the past, you have had conversations with land development with regarding scheduling, and you as a council have requested or required, I don't recall
that's what we're
which.
trying to do.
That you're not going to
I have a
have.
question. Applicant, please? See, I don't even know this. Are you representing this other applicant, the other application that they're referring to?
True at Gardner 400 North Ashley Drive, my firm is, but law partner Tyler Hudson's representing the Marisol.
Are you able to speak to that, whether if we're gonna split, if we're gonna split this between two different dates, which would go where?
So I don't want to run him afoul. I do think we've got the more contractual deadlines. And ours is already owned, ours is just under contract. But if it's your pleasure, we renegotiated the contract to mirror the January 15th. I'd be taking a risk here on, can we extend that out again to correspond with the, I believe it's February 22nd date?
12th.
12th, excuse me. So,
Okay, Susan Johnson-Villas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Susan Johnson, Velez Legal Department. I just got off the phone with Ms. Dock, and so what she wanted me to make sure council understood was that if cases are ready to be set for public hearing on a particular date, which the Marisol is ready to be set. So it's too early for the schedule to be, the full agenda, but it is on track to be scheduled for that January 15th date. And so they really don't take into consideration when setting cases for a particular night, whether or not there's another complex case. If the cases are ready, then they will be set. So there is a possibility, if you continue this, that the Marisol will still be on that January 15th agenda. Because it's, just in the normal course of things.
I said a few minutes ago that I would make a motion to deny the continuance. But if the applicant would, you may have the votes without me, but if the applicant would accept February 12th, I would change my vote to yes.
Applicant, is that all right with you?
I think that's fine. And again, Councilwoman Hurtak, the last time you asked us to renotice, we'd be happy to do that again too.
Yeah, that was going to be my request. Not renoticing one, but all three.
Sure.
Okay, can I get a motion to continue this item to February 12th, 2026?
I'll make the motion to do that with the re-notification of all three items.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak.
Sorry, I can't do that. We're only doing the comp plan.
Only the comp plan.
So I will make a motion to continue this till February 12th with a, with the addition of also re-noticing.
Notification. We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak on the continuance of the comp plan to February 12th, 2026 with notification. Susan Johnson-Villas.
So, and perhaps Christopher can speak to this, but apparently there are only 2 slots open on the February agenda unless council wants to waive the limitation on the number of items that placed on the agenda.
But one is a comp plan.
There's one more case tonight that's seeking a continuance, and so that would move to February 12th. Yeah, so that's I just want to make council aware so that you have all the information as you make your motion.
Does that change your opinion?
So, Ms. Johnson-Velez, is there a reason, I understand that it's set, but is there a reason that we just couldn't say the Marisol is going to be in February? Because that's one slot versus the 3 slots we need in January?
And why do we have the one later tonight, why do we have to put it on February 12th?
Yeah, I'm not
Why
understanding.
can't we just keep this one on
Well,
February?
let's stay focused where we are right now. So there's a schedule, now, I mean, council doesn't generally schedule until we place things on this thing, but That is a legitimate question for staff. I don't know if that Susan Johnson Velez is the one to answer that
I
question.
can try to find out if you would
Yeah.
like to.
If you can, Mr. Chairman, if I can be heard.
Mr. Shelby.
Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. The issue ultimately is, as council knows, something can be set on the agenda. It could be a big item. And if it falls off the item, if it falls off the agenda, then what you will have is you'll have it continue to another date. This case.
Did you understand what the point that Councilwoman Hurtak just said? Because this is three items versus
Yes.
one item, so we move one and put three on the January and move the one to February to balance out the packed February schedule, which scheduling wise, that makes sense. So if the Marisol goes to February, these cases go to January.
The Marisol, if it's continued, does not necessarily mean it's going to go to February, if it has to be continued.
No, we're not talking about
Oh, I
that.
see what you're saying.
That's the whole point. The
Yes,
Marisol hasn't been set yet.
That's correct.
We can set it for February.
If in fact, you move this to January and decide that the
Why don't we just hold off right now until we get it? I think Susan is going to look for an answer for us, right? So we won't even know what we're talking about yet. We don't have to speculate until she gets back with an answer.
And we have a motion and second on the floor.
Well, yeah, I think we need to hear from the.
So I would like
We
to,
don't want unintended
I would like to
consequences.
withdraw my motion and instead remove item number 14 because it's been misnoticed.
We have a motion to remove item 14 from the agenda. We have a second. Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Yeah, and a motion, I'll second Councilman
We have a motion from
Maniscalco.
Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Hurtak to
Two.
withdraw item number 13 from the agenda.
If I can, Mr. Chairman, just for the purpose of the audience who is watching these, who may be interested in what happened to number 14 and number 13, if you could just mention the number and perhaps the date. that
So
would-
number 14 is file number REZ 25100. It is misnoticed, so it will not be heard, and the council has removed it from the agenda.
Thank you.
Item number 13, we now have a motion and we have a second to withdraw it from the agenda because there was a request, and it was REZ 2556 because it was a request to withdraw it from the agenda. So we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 13 and 14 are both withdrawn from the agenda.
One's removed. The distinction. No, I'm just saying, I'm just saying there's a distinction between the two, a legal distinction.
Susan Johnson Velez.
Susan Johnson, Les Legal Department. So just in talking through it with Ms. Doc on the phone, we each recalled that the comp plan amendment for the Marisol had already been previously set. So it's already continued. It's a continued public hearing for February 12th. So council, because it's been continued to that date and time certain, you won't be able to continue it until that evening.
That's true.
So, did you say that it was, the comp plan was for February? Then that works.
It was scheduled on a prior date and
Yes.
continued to February 12th, so you cannot.
But that's perfect, though.
I'm sorry, January 15th.
Oh.
I apologize. It was continued to January 15th, and so council wouldn't be able to continue that hearing again if it wanted to until January 15th.
What is the pleasure of council? Okay, can I,
We hear from the applicant, so I'm clear for the record as to what his position is. Mr. Gardner, you're able to do that date, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I
Hold
hear
on
it
one
myself.
second.
okay, I am looking for a motion to continue item number 2, TA CPA 2411. Well, we made more motions, we have to have another one. Uh-oh.
I'm sorry, Truett Gardner, 4 North Ashley Drive. We were just trying to talk with our other partner. One thought they had is January 29th is an AB night. Is there any way are they happy with the 29th? Oh, Marisol would have to stay on 115. We could go to 129 if that is the pleasure of council.
That's probably the easier.
Was that? Oh, I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
let's just,
I mean,
I don't mean to complicate it.
No, I don't, if you guys, I think that,
But it's,
we have 1, 2, 3, oh.
I think we should keep it on the 12th.
January 29th is the approval for, looks like 2504 and 2506. Aren't those that's the future land use map? No way. That's going to be a long one.
We're good with February 12th.
Okay, so once again, I am ready to hear a motion.
I move to continue it to February 12th.
February 12th. We have a motion.
You want to
Okay.
make the motion?
Yeah, she was usually, yeah, that was moot. So, okay, so here we go. We have a motion from Councilman Carlson to continue file number TA CPA 2411 I'll get there.
Okay.
To February 12th, 2026, under the condition that the applicant renotices. We have, that's a motion from Councilman Carlson, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor? Why do I have to announce?
After we vote.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. So file number TA CPA 2411 will be heard on February 12th, 2025. I'm sorry, 2026. Yeah, whatever date that is. Oh my God, I don't know what the address of this place is. What is it? Why do I always forget that? 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602 at 5:01 p.m. Okay, and there's the address. Okay, I need a cocktail.
Not yet. Number 3.
I know, okay.
No, now we have number 3.
No, we're still clearing the agenda.
Yeah.
We're all done.
Yep, let's go.
Good evening, Council. For the record, Christopher DeMonte, Development Coordination. Our next few items to clear from the agenda is item number 3, VAC 25-8. This goes along with the previous discussion. The applicant is now requesting a continuance to February 12th, 2026. The applicant is available to answer any questions.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
I make a motion to move file number VAC 25-8 to February 12th, 2026 with re-notification at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602, 5:01 p.m.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next.
Christopher DeMonte, Development Coordination. Item number 5, REZ 2548. The applicant requests a continuance to February 12th, 2026. The applicant is present if you have any questions.
When you made that motion, did you just say REZ? Because he said 3 February.
No, I said VAC.
Oh, you said, okay, my apologies.
Yeah, I was struggling with the C, but yes, VAC. Yeah.
Councilwoman Hurtak, you did such a good job on that last one, but Councilman Carson, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think Marty said this earlier, but can somebody, one of the attorneys, explain to the public that now that the first one has been continued, we don't really have a choice about these two, right?
Well, these are by right anyway.
Yeah, these are by right.
No, but can you?
I think we've already beat.
Just so the public understands
I think
that
we already beat that dead horse. He's already explained that.
Okay, I just want to make sure the public understands.
Well, if people want to know, the fact is, and we've talked with Mr. Gardner about it, this was pursuant to council's rules, Rule 6J regarding continuance, the first continuance done more than 7 calendar days prior to the scheduled hearing. And the continuance is for no longer than 90 days, but he's renoticing it anyway, so that makes that moot. And just remember that it has already been scheduled previously and is available as a slot. So this continuance that's being requested, council's rules make it as a matter of right, being the first continuance.
Okay, Councilwoman Hurtak, you did a great job last time. Can you do it again?
File number REZ 2548, moving this hearing to February 12th, 2026, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, 33602, 3rd floor at 5:01 p.m. with re-notification.
Just to be clear, for language, it's continued until, and we have a second. Council, Mr. Shelby?
Yes, Council. As long as we're reading these rules and that the public is aware of that this is granted as a matter of right, just for Council's reminder that the rule that follows that, or the subsection that follows that, 2 states as follows. If the criteria as stated above for granting a first continuance are satisfied, the first request shall be granted at the meeting at which the public hearing is scheduled, and the date, time, and location of the continued public hearing will be announced. If the criteria above are not satisfied, and with all subsequent requests for continuances, the applicant and petitioner should be prepared for City Council to consider and act upon the item before it. City Council may deem the application or petition withdrawn if a matter is properly set to be heard and a continuance is requested after having been continued on 2 previous occasions.
Understand. Thank you. We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak, a second from Councilman Maniscalco to continue this item to February. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next.
Last item, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. Item number 10, this is REZ 25112. The applicant is requesting a continuance to January 15th, 2026. We have space on this agenda to move the item, and the applicant is present if you have any questions.
Okay, just Mr. Shelby.
Pardon me, I just wanted to...
exhausted your questions.
Well, this is an important one. I just wanted to make sure that you announced, I don't recall hearing, the date, time, and place of the vacation, the second one.
No, she did.
You
that.
did, you did it.
She
So
read
you-
it, she read it with
She
her.
read it that time.
That's why I had her
not the
do it,
last
because she
time.
did such a stellar job on the first one. So
Actually, you did the first one.
No, well,
For the
it-
date, time, and
no,
place.
She did,
But that's,
she did the first rezone.
as long as it's on the record, that's what I care about.
There
Thank you.
go. Okay, so we have a request to continue file number REZ 25112 to January 15th, 2026. Can I hear a motion? Oh, you want to hear from the applicant? Okay. Well, this would be a first continuation. This is a first, now this is a first continuation. This is by right, right? Shelby? This is an item number 10.
Is this by right? Is this the first continuation? Staff?
No, because they have not made a written request for a continuance.
Does it have to be written request?
Yes, and 7 days before.
And it has to be received 7 days prior.
So then, applicant.
Yes, Eileen Rosario. The reason for my request for a continuance is my client called when we was out here, and he is unfortunately out of the country, and he wants to be here to speak on his own behalf in reference to his property, and something happened with his plane and out there in Egypt or wherever he's at, and he asked me, can you please ask for the continuance, because I really want to be there, even though he knew the date, and he's been trying to get back here.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Are you willing to renotice?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, is there
Absolutely.
anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item for the continuation only? Hearing none. Can I get a motion to continue item number 10 to January 15th, 2026? We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from
I'll second
Councilman Carlson.
with the renotification.
Okay, so we have a motion to continue file number REZ 25112 to January 15th, 2026 with the agreement from the applicant that they will renotice. All those in favor say aye.
Yeah. 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602, 5:01 p.m.
Okay, we got to get the clerk to be doing that. We have,
May I make a suggestion?
Yes.
It would be appropriate if you wish to have the clerk to do it as a matter of habit, so you don't always have to worry about
Yeah.
whether it's said or not.
yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, the ayes have it unanimously. Thank you very much. That is, item number 10 is continued. Does that complete the agenda? Well, no, they're consulting. Agenda reviews are not usually this difficult. This is the worst agenda review ever.
We also want, Chris DeMonch, Development Coordination, we also wanted to make note to council to waive the 180 days for these items that were presented tonight for continuance.
Can I hear a motion from Councilman to waive council rules for 180 days? We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from? Second from Councilwoman Hurtak. All those in favor, you have a puzzled look on your face.
For the items that, well, at least for
this one, Euclid?
Council,
For 2, 3, 5, and 10.
Okay.
As I recall, Council, sorry, Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney, the 180 days is in your code for a particular reason, and if council, without knowing the reason, just waives these as a matter of right, it sort of defeats the purpose of having 180 days in the code. It
It's
depends
ours,
whether.
it's our rules to waive, Mr.
Yeah,
Shannon.
And that's fine with
quite
me.
frankly, the number 10, they're only going to January.
Yeah, so we have a motion from
And
Councilwoman.
yeah, that's not even 180 days.
So why would you do it?
Let's just get past this.
Okay.
We have a motion. Thank you. We have a motion for Councilwoman Hurtak, a second from, Councilwoman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Carlson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. We have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Are you done with everything?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, yes.
We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Carlson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Again, worst agenda review ever.
That took an hour.
Oh, my Lord. I had, she's getting ready to walk out. She said, I didn't sign up for this.
Remember your first night meeting? Y'all, that was the 3 a.m. night meeting.
Yeah, it was. It was terrible. Okay, so we are now, let's talk about brownfields. Item number 1.
Good evening, Council. McLean Evans, Assistant City Attorney. Agenda item number 1 is the first of 2 scheduled public hearings before City Council for a proposed brownfield designation of a property consisting of 2 parcels located in the general vicinity of 1921 North 53rd Street and 1810 North 57th Street. Broadway Holdings LLC is requesting designation of these properties as a brownfield area to assist in the assessment and remediation of environmental impacts that may exist on the property. Details of the designation have been outlined in a document entitled Staff Report Broadway Holdings Proposed Brownfield Area Designation, which is available for public review both at the clerk's office and in OnBase. In accordance with the Florida Brownfields Redevelopment Act's requirements for privately initiated brownfield designations, the applicants held a public meeting on November 3rd, 2025 at the Hilton Garden Inn, Tampa, Ybor Historic District. The applicant published notice of that meeting in both an ethnic newspaper and the newspaper of general circulation. Additionally, the meeting time and location were announced by City Council during its October 16th evening meeting. At the conclusion of the second public hearing, which is scheduled for December 4th, 2025 at 10:30 a.m. or as soon thereafter as possible, Council will have an opportunity to pass a resolution designating Broadway Holdings Brownfield area. Staff and I and the applicant's representative, Josh Coldiron of Grambling Environmental Law, are present if you would like us to answer any questions.
Does council have any questions about item number 1? Hearing none. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item? We have a motion to close from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilwoman Hurtak. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, now the rest of the public hearings are, yes, she did. Oh, she did. She did it.
Okay, for item number 1, second public hearing to be held on December 4th, 2025 at 10:30 a.m. located at Old City Hall at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you. Okay, for the rest of the public hearings this evening, they are quasi-judicial. They require you to be sworn in. If you are here and you are going to speak to any items on the agenda tonight, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in by the clerk.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth and nothing but the truth? I do.
Thank you. We are zipping along to item number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Christopher DeMonch with Development Coordination. Agenda item number 4 is REZ 2545. This is a request to rezone 302 North Oregon Avenue, Suite A and B from IG Industrial General to RM 24 Residential Multifamily. We'll start with an aerial of the subject site. The subject property is located, and it's outlined in red, it's located in the northwest corner of the intersection of West North B Street and North Oregon Avenue. The site is surrounded by a mix of residential uses along with some industrial uses. There is RS50 to the north and south, and we have industrial general zoning to the east and to the west. The site is also located in the West Tampa overlay, and development must comply with those overlay standards at the time of permitting. The subject site is undeveloped. We do have a survey. The subject property is outlined in green. It has approximately 52 feet of frontage along West North B Street and 113 feet of frontage along North Oregon Avenue. The RM24 district requires a minimum lot area of 5,000 square feet with a minimum lot frontage of 50 feet. Given the size of the subject site, a total of 3 units can be developed. The requested use of RM24 zoning is appropriate in this location and provides an appropriate transition given the mix of industrial general and RS50 zoning in the area. Since this is a Euclidean, there's no site plan or elevations, but we do have some photos to show.
Good cell phone cover.
Is that good for you? All right. So this is a photo showing the subject site. This is looking north from North B Street. This is on the subject site, looking north at the residential RS50 zoning to the north. This is looking south across North B Street. This is from the middle of the property looking south. And I got the same photo there. East of the subject property zone IG. West of the subject property, the site is developed with a communications tower, and then further west of that lot is a single-family detached unit. Next, we have the view looking north on North Oregon, looking south on North Oregon. This is looking west on North B Street, and looking east on North B Street. Development Coordination Compliance staff has reviewed this application. We find the request to be consistent with the Land Development Code, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Here she comes. Dazzle us.
I will try. Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff. This site is within the Central Tampa Planning District, the North Hyde Park neighborhood, the West Tampa Urban Village, and Evacuation Zone C. The subject site outlined here is represented with the General Mixed Use 24 designation, which does allow for a broad range of uses, including residential, commercial, and light industrial uses at 24 dwelling units per acre or a 1.5 FAR. The GMU 24 designation is to the east, the south, and the west of the subject site. To the north in the pink color is the Community Mixed Use 35 designation, and to the northwest and the southwest in the brown is the Residential 20 designation. The request supports many policies related to housing the city's population within the comprehensive plan and ensures an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations. The comprehensive plan also directs the greatest share of growth towards urban villages. The subject site is the last remaining parcel with an industrial zoning designation on this block between North Oregon Avenue, West Fig Street, West North B Street, and North Rome Avenue. The comprehensive plan recognizes that the General Mixed Use 24 future land use designation was designated in areas with no clear identifiable development trend, and that over time these areas will transition to development that is comparable and compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. Rezoning the parcel to allow residential development is consistent with the overall goal of providing increased housing opportunities and a compatible zoning district for the neighborhood. As part of the site design, the applicant should ensure that multifamily and single-family attached development is pedestrian-friendly with front doors oriented toward neighborhood sidewalks and streets. In conclusion, the proposed RM24 zoning district would allow for development that is comparable and compatible with the character of the surrounding uses and is consistent with the development and pattern anticipated under the General Mixed Use 24 future land use designation. That concludes my presentation if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions? Hearing none. Applicant. Times two.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Philip Lenson. I'm an architect and an agent for Richard Huell. Robinson is the owner of the property. And so we are requesting the rezoning, obviously, from IG to RM24 to allow for small-scale multifamily. We believe that this rezoning allows the adaptive reuse for this underutilized industrial parcel, consistent with the surrounding IG zone properties, which there are fewer of now as the neighborhood is developing. And the multifamily residence appears compatible with the surrounding area and the comprehensive plan for the area. And it's being redeveloped now with more housing, and so our intent is to follow through, redevelop it with following the West Tampa overlay district, which I think is actually helpful in the sense that it's community oriented and to fit into that community with streets, with entryways on the street, introducing that whole vibrancy of that neighborhood that really is being rejuvenated right now.
Councilwoman Hurtak? Need more?
No, we just believe that, that this rezoning is consistent with what, the neighborhood, how the neighborhood is developing, and it would just be a benefit.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hurtak?
The photos were unremarkable. They're just boxes. I know we have no sway in this, but
Yeah.
but providing some actual character to housing,
Yes.
Using that overlay would be 100% what that community needs.
Yeah, I agree. As an architect, I agree that I'm a little critical of some of those areas around there with no porches, with no introduction of the interaction between the pedestrians and the residents. Ultimately, it's going to be, Richard's going to be redeveloping it, so I'll work with Richard and I'll advise him in that direction, but I would agree.
I think you've been listening to Councilwoman Hurtak. Very good. Any further questions? Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item? Hearing none. Motion to close, Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilwoman Hurtak. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Do we have this loaded up? I don't see it on there. No? Never mind, first hearing. Okay,
We have to read it first.
Councilman Carlson.
Move item number 4, file number REZ 25-45, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 302 North Oregon Avenue, Suite A and B in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification IG Industrial General to RM24 Residential Multifamily, providing effective date.
We have a motion from Councilman Carlson, a second from Councilwoman Hurtak. All those. Oh, that it sounded like you. Okay, that's much better. We have a motion from Councilman Carlson, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Clerk.
Okay, motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on December the 4th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Did you say December 24th? Okay. I was gonna say.
See, it's all of us. It's all of us. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Okay, we'll see you next month. Very good. Okay,
You guys ate too much Chinese food.
Yeah, we have too much Chinese food. I know what they lace that with. Number 6.
Good evening, Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 6 is REZ 2589, request to rezone 2012 Linsey Street from RM16 to PD for residential single-family semi-detached uses. We'll start with an aerial view of the subject site and the surrounding area. You can see the subject site outlined in red here. This is on the north side of Linsey Street and east of South 20th, west of South 22nd Street. The area surrounding the subject site contains mostly residential uses. 1 block north of the subject site on Harper is a property rezoned in 2009 to RM18, which you can see here. There have been several PD rezonings south of the site near Gordon Street. The subject site has a future land use of TU 24, which allows for development up to a 1.5 FAR and up to 24 dwelling units per acre. Given the size of the subject parcel, a maximum of 2 units can be developed on site. development and is proposed for 2 units, which is within the allowable density. Next, I'll show the site plan provided by the applicant. The applicant proposes the construction of 2 structures, each 3 stories and 2,375 square feet. Front door orientation is to the side for each unit. Access to the site is proposed off of Linsey, which is up here. Each unit contains a 1-car garage and has a covered porch in the rear. The rear yard setback allows for the preservation of tree located on the north of the subject site. Here are the elevations. This one is the east, north, west, and south elevation. You can see the garage there. Next, I'll show some photos. This is the subject site on Linsey. This is east of the site, west of the site. This is west across 20th Street, southwest of the site. This is south of the site. Here's another photo south of the site. And this is southeast of the site. Development coordination and compliance staff review the application and find the request to be consistent with the Land Development Code. There are 2 waivers as part of this request. If City Council approves the application, the modifications to the site plan as shown on the revision sheet must be completed between first and second reading. I'm available for any questions. I'll turn it over to the Planning Commission.
Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff. The site is within the Central Tampa Planning District, the Palmetto Beach neighborhood, the Coastal High Hazard Area, and Evacuation Zone A. The subject site located here is represented with the Transitional Use 24 designation, which does surround the subject site. Moving further east towards South 22nd Street is a Community Mixed Use 35 designation, and moving west in the dark gray is the Heavy Industrial designation. Since the Transitional Use 24 designation allows a wide range of uses, there is a potential of creating a development pattern that does not adequately mitigate for intense uses allowed under this category. Single-family attached residential uses can be considered within the Transitional Use 24 designation, and as there are already residentially developed properties along Linsey Street between South 20th Street and South 22nd Street, they have an average existing density of 10.39 dwelling units per acre. The proposed plan development proposes 16.66 dwelling units per acre and is consistent with the density anticipated under the Transitional Use 24 designation. This request will provide additional housing opportunities in proximity to commercial services and amenities situated along South 22nd Street. Planning Commission staff had determined that the proposed PD is comparable and compatible with the surrounding development pattern. The comprehensive plan speaks to the design of attached single-family units by encouraging the design to include the orientation of the front door to a neighborhood sidewalk and street. The proposed design orients the entrances to the sidewalk, which is consistent with Land Use Policy 9.2.6, and promotes a pedestrian-friendly environment. Additionally, the comprehensive plan recognizes the role of alleys and supports vehicular access where feasible. This site is not utilizing the alley due to an FDOT objection to its use. The request would provide housing on an underutilized land and to ensure an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of the current and future population. The proposed request is consistent with the overall policy direction of the comprehensive plan and the development pattern anticipated under the Transitional Use 24 designation. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions.
Any questions? Applicant?
Good evening, Ralph Schuler, 2401 North Howard Avenue, and I have been sworn. Pretty straightforward project. You've heard all from both staff, and We've done similar projects here previously on Gordon Street. We've done a number of projects. And of course, you've heard DOT has now objected us from using alleys, so therefore this project doesn't utilize an unimproved alley. We have gotten away with other options in on Gordon Street, mainly because we owned most of the property. Here we do not. We only have one single piece of property. Pretty straightforward. We're moving from a vacant lot to a single-family semi-detached, AKA a duplex, which utilizes, of course, it's in a flood zone, so that the new property has to meet flood zone requirements. The first floor is basically storage, garage, and then 2 living levels above with some porches facing the front. Obviously, difficult to get front access or front door access on a small lot with those kind of restraints. So we've done the best we could, and again, have two units. You've seen the site plan previously. The only waivers we have are the side yard buffers, which of course, because we have access to our entrances, we can't plant here and here, and technically we have a 7-yard setback. This is just a sidewalk, but we have request from a 7-yard setback and a 5-yard buffer, which is a use-to-use buffer between a multifamily project and a single-family project. And then again, allowing the front entrances on the side versus the front. The front setback, the front elevation, which is the south elevation, looks like this. We're going to have a covered porch here and then an open porch above. Pretty straightforward design. But obviously, Palmetto Beach is redeveloping. I think it's still going to be a good project for Palmetto Beach with everything else that's going along. And Palmetto Beach was very, very much affected with the hurricanes last year. And I think housing stock like this will be a benefit. With that, I'll conclude my presentation.
Nobody else? I have a question. I'm having a hard time with this one. It seems like it's too much on too little, and that's why you have to get the side door access with the sidewalk and side setback. So when I first saw this, it troubled me. I mean, I get it, but you look at all the other parcels. They're all, of course, they're all single family, not multifamily. Is it just the economics of that you can't develop this to a single family house so that you can conform with the front door? And
well, it's in transitional use. Right. It's in a between 22nd and 20th is it's specifically designed for it's changing. If you get a hard to heavy industrial to the west and housing stock that's in ill repair, and we've done. And again, I know this is on its own merit, but we've done this same project on a couple other projects to the south, and of course we're getting ready to start a large townhouse project on Gordon, and we feel that this is the way the neighborhood is going to go, and that it's going to benefit people. As affordability, obviously, affordability is becoming a problem everywhere, but the good thing about Palmetto Beach is it's relatively affordable. The problem with Palmetto Beach is its housing stock has been battered by storms because it's so low, and so therefore we're trying to thread that needle.
So the what's the width of this lot?
It's a 50-foot wide lot.
Yeah, so it's 2 houses on 50 feet. Are there any other semi-detached developments on the block?
On this particular block, no, yes. But to the block south, yes.
Yeah. I'm seeing a nod from staff that acknowledges that.
A nod is insufficient for the record.
Staff, would you like to come to the microphone, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Could you please paint a picture for me about how this fits into these other parcels and the way this neighborhood is going?
Yes, of course. Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. On this block, there are no other homes or structures like that. They are single-family detached structures. However, these recent rezonings down here have
Those are multifamily down there, right?
I'm sorry?
Those large, where's those apartments we approved somewhere down there?
They are down in this area. Yeah. Let me see here, I have them on.
I know we approved on big project on that.
The south side of Gordon Street, between 20th and 22nd, was approved for residential, single-family attached 5 units. And on the southwest corner of Gordon and South 22nd is approved for 9 units. So these areas over here, they were approved for 5 units, and let's see, that one was in 2023 for the 5 units, and also 2023 for the 9 units.
Yeah.
Wasn't there an apartment that we?
Yeah, we did approve an apartment somewhere down there.
Yeah, I think it's
Back in-
further down. Was it on Grant?
Is it further east?
Or is it that one up there, that big PD parcel up there?
I'm uncertain.
Yeah,
about
we
that.
did
I could
approve an
find out for
apartment
you,
complex.
Oh,
And
well.
it took up a lot of part, so, I don't know. Councilwoman Hurtak, what do you think about this?
I was concerned about not using the alley, except for the
FDOT,
FDOT,
yeah.
and there's like nothing, we can't do anything about that.
Right.
So I think that between 20th and 22nd, that is the area that FDOT does not want alleys used, and it is what it is. That's,
So you're okay with it?
I'm also frustrated by the side doors, but I don't see the economics for building a single-family house on this
That's why I asked
property.
about the economics of it.
No,
I
I
get
don't
the
see it.
economics, yeah.
I don't see it. I
Okay.
think this is, I think he's not wrong. This is the development area, and I think by and large, in fact, I just led a bike ride down in Palmetto Beach last weekend, and this is what we're seeing. It's what's coming, and unfortunately, they suffered tremendously. It was a really, really bad storm season for them.
Okay. That's it? Anybody have questions? Is anybody?
And best use considering how that corridor is. 22nd, is it 22nd? I think is their main street, right?
Yeah.
No, 22nd here. So if you're going down IKEA,
Linsey,
it's
and
21st. But, yeah, no, I get it. It's that corridor. We already mentioned the alleys and everything, but
Okay.
yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item? Hearing none. We have a motion to close. Councilwoman Hurtak, second from. Councilman Carlson, all those in favor say aye.
He's not
Aye,
hearing you
opposed?
tonight.
I didn't hear him.
Yeah.
I didn't hear him, yeah. Okay. Councilwoman Young, would you please read this item? Hold on.
Sorry.
Speak right into the microphone, too.
Sorry.
Yeah, file number first.
File number REZ 25-89, or an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 2000.
No, start right, so just file number and then.
Oh, sorry. File number REZ 2589, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 2012 Linsey Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from rezoning district classification RM16 residential multifamily to PD plan development residential single-family semi-detached, providing an effective date.
Perfect, thank you. We have a motion from Councilwoman Young, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, ayes have it. Clerk?
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 4th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much. Thank you, have a good night. Number 7.
Good evening, Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 7 is REZ 2592, request to rezone 1541 West LaSalle Street from IG to RM24. I'll start with a survey of the property. You can see the outline of the parcel. The frontage along on West LaSalle is 50 feet, and the depth of the property is 95 feet, and there is an existing structure on the site. Here's an aerial view of the subject site and the surrounding area. You can see the subject site outlined in red on West LaSalle. The subject site is located on the north side of West LaSalle, one parcel east of North Rome, and just south of I-275. The surrounding area's development pattern transitions from industrial general, like along North Rome Avenue here, to residential single-family detached uses to the east in this area. Directly north of the site is Interstate 275. 1 block to the southeast is residential multifamily 18 that was recently approved in 2024, and that is right here. There are a few planned developments in the immediate area that have also been recently approved. The RM24 zoning district would provide a more appropriate transition from the industrial general and commercial uses located west of the site to the single-family detached uses located east of the site. If approved, the zoning must adhere to the permissible uses in the RM24 zoning district and the standards set forth in the West Tampa overlay district. A maximum of 2 dwelling units can be considered on the subject site if all other land development regulations are met. Since this is a Euclidean rezoning, there is no site plan or elevations. Next, I'll show some photos of the site and surrounding area. Here is the subject site on West LaSalle. This is west of the subject site, and this is Rome right there. This is east of the subject site on LaSalle. A little bit further east here. And then this is further east down the road still. This is south of the subject site. And then this is just that same parcel south of the subject site. Development coordination and compliance staff review the application and find the request to be consistent with the land development code. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Next.
Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff. This site is within the Central Tampa Planning District, the West Riverfront Neighborhood Crime Watch Association, the West Tampa Urban Village, and Evacuation Zone C. The subject site is represented here with the General Mixed Use 24 designation, which is to the north, west, and south of the subject site. To the east is the Residential 20 designation. The part of the city's planning and housing strategies is to accommodate current and future population demands by using land resources more efficiently and encouraging infill development on vacant and underutilized sites to ensure that an adequate housing supply is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations. Additionally, the comprehensive plan directs the greatest share of growth to urban villages. The subject site is adjacent to an industrially zoned property to the west, which fronts North Rome Avenue. To the east are residentially zoned properties. The rezoning will promote a transition from the intensive industrial uses along North Rome to the residential uses to the east. Additionally, the comprehensive plan recognizes that the GMU 24 future land use designation was designated in areas with no clear identifiable development trend, and that over time, these areas will transition into development that is compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. As the surrounding development area redevelops, rezoning the parcel to allow residential development is consistent with the overall goal of providing increased housing opportunities and compatible zoning district for the neighborhood. As part of the site design, the applicant should ensure that multifamily and single-family attached development is pedestrian-friendly with front doors oriented toward neighborhood sidewalks and streets. The RM24 district would allow for development that is comparable and compatible with the character of the surrounding uses and is consistent with the development pattern anticipated under the GMU 24 future land use designation. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions.
I'm dazzled. Any questions? Applicant?
Hello, Council. Assad Sheikh, 1322 West Grace Street. I'll be brief. We have a beautiful alley behind the house. We intend to use it. When we develop this property, we're going to put 2 units here. We are very close to the Riverwalk expansion, so it'll be bringing some extra density. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Hearing none. Is there anybody in the public here who wishes to speak to this item? Councilwoman Hurtak.
Motion to close.
Council, We have motion to close, Councilwoman Hurtak, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Would you like to read this, Councilwoman?
Yes, file number REZ 25-92, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 1541 West LaSalle Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification IG, industrial general, to RM24, residential multifamily, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak using her smooth jazz voice. A second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Clerk?
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 4th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you. Next. Thank you. Good night.
Good evening, Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 8 is REZ 2598, request to rezone 1302 North Oregon Avenue from RS50 to RM18. We'll start with a survey. You can see the outline of the parcel, and here we have the width of the parcel at 50 and along Arch, and then the depth is at 101 along North Oregon Avenue. Here's an aerial view of the subject site and the surrounding area. This should look very familiar to you. The subject site is outlined in red on just right here on North Oregon and West Arch, and it is surrounded mostly with residential single-family uses to the north, south, and east. To the west is residential multifamily 18 that was recently approved in 2024. And again, there are several other rezonings that have occurred in the area. And if approved, the zoning must adhere to the permissible uses in the RM18 zoning district and the standards set forth in the West Tampa Overlay District. A maximum of 2 dwelling units can be considered on the subject site if all other land development regulations are met. Since this is a Euclidean rezoning, there is no site plan or elevations. I'll show you some photos of the site. Here is the subject site on West Arch looking north. Here's the subject site on North Oregon looking west. This is west of the subject site. That is that recent rezoning. This is a little bit further west. This is east of the subject site at Arch in Oregon. South of the subject site on West Arch. This is south, and then a little bit further south. Development Coordination and Compliance staff reviewed the application and find the request to be consistent with the Land Development Code. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Next.
Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff. The site is within the Central Tampa Planning District, the West Riverfront Neighborhood Crime Watch Association, the West Tampa Urban Village, and Evacuation Zone C. The subject site is located here, represented with the Residential 20 designation, which does surround the subject site. Planning Commission staff have determined that the proposed rezoning supports the development pattern anticipated under the Residential 20 designation. While the block is zoned primarily for single family, the parcel neighboring the subject site to the west was approved for an RM18 rezoning. Approval of the proposed rezoning would continue the trend towards housing at a slightly higher density than the existing neighborhood, consistent with policy direction. The comprehensive plan encourages multifamily and attached single-family development that is pedestrian-friendly with front doors oriented toward neighborhood sidewalks and streets. As part of the site design, the applicant should ensure that this policy direction is met. The request supports many policies related to housing the city's population within the comprehensive plan and ensures an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations. The comprehensive plan also directs the greatest share of growth to urban villages. The request is comparable and compatible with the surrounding area and is consistent with the long-range development pattern encouraged under the residential 20 future land use designation. And that concludes my presentation if you have any questions.
Any questions? Okay, applicant.
Good evening, council members. My name is Ralph Carasquillo, 4020 West Nassau Street, Tampa, Florida. And I respectfully request your, I'm sorry, it's my,
You're good.
I've never been up it. I respectfully request your approval.
There you go. Perfect. Okay, any questions for the applicant? Hearing none. Is there anybody in the public who wishes to speak to this item? We have a motion to close, Councilman Maniscalco, second for Councilwoman Hurtak. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Councilman Maniscalco, would you give us your best smooth jazz voice and read item number 8?
I've been funny all day.
Funny looking.
Yeah, that's it with my Mr. Rogers look. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 1302 North Oregon Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS50, residential single family, to RM18, residential multifamily, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from? Second from Councilwoman Hurtak. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Clerk.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 4th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Christopher DeMonch with Development Coordination. Agenda item 9 is REZ 25108. This is a request to rezone 5705, 5707 North 22nd Street, 2206, 2208, 2212, 2212B, 2214, 2215, 2400, 2401, 2403, 2815 and 2905 East Henry Avenue, from PDA to PDA for business, professional, and medical office, congregate living facility, residential treatment facility, recovery home A and B, life care treatment facility, residential multifamily, hospital, daycare, school, and all CI uses, which would be limited to parcel 5. First, we'll start off with an aerial of the subject site. The subject site is comprised of 7 parcels that are outlined on the overhead here in red. The site is located north of East Hillsborough Avenue, south of East Hannah Avenue, west of North 30th Street, and east of North 22nd Street. East Henry Avenue runs between parcels that are part of the subject application that are located to the north and south of this roadway. Looking at surrounding uses, to the north we have residential uses, commercial uses, as well as the City of Tampa's City Center complex. East of the subject site we have commercial as well as residential and industrial uses. South of the subject site we have commercial as well as multifamily uses, including a newly constructed multifamily use on North 22nd Street. And west of the subject site we have commercial as well as residential uses. A closer look, just showing kind of a breakdown of the 7 parcels. This shows an outline. The subject site is part of the East Tampa Community Redevelopment Area as well as the East Tampa overlay, so they would need to meet these standards at the time of permitting for any future development. We do have a site plan. Now, the overall site is approximately 23.01 acres, with the current PDA approval allowing for a mix of uses, as I mentioned in the title introduction. In order to add the proposed school use as well as CI uses specifically to parcel 5 only, a new PDA application is required. The proposed school use would be allowed across all 7 parcels, whereas the CI uses I mentioned are limited to parcel 5. They're requesting all uses with the exception of cemetery, club, funeral parlor, hotel and motel, bar or lounge, retail sales, gasoline, auto rental, crematorium, medical marijuana dispensary or processing facility, and major vehicle repair. There are no waivers requested with this application. There are also no elevations submitted with the application, as they are requesting a PDA rezoning. I do have photos to add to the record showing the site. This is this is north of the subject site along North 22nd Street. This is heading east on parcel 1 with looking north on Henry Avenue. Still looking at parcel 1. This is the west end of parcel 1 on North 22nd Street. This is looking east. This is the southern portion of parcel 1 on Henry Avenue. Next we have parcel 2 on Henry Avenue. These are industrial uses east of parcel 2. This is parcel 3. This is looking south from Henry Avenue. This is the western portion of parcel 3. This is looking east on North 22nd Street. Next we have parcel 4. Next we have parcel 5. This is proposed for all CI uses except for the items that I've listed, the uses that I've listed. Additional photo of parcel 5. This is west of parcel 5 on Henry Avenue. North of parcel 5, industrial uses. Parcel 6. And parcel 7. Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed this petition. We find the request consistent with the applicable City of Tampa land development regulations. Should it be the pleasure of City Council to approve this application, further modifications to the site plan must be completed by the applicant between first and second reading of the ordinance as stated on the revision sheet, and I'm available for any questions.
Does council have any questions? Hearing none. Next.
Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff. This site is within the Central Tampa and University Planning Districts. The East Seminole Heights neighborhood portions of the site are within the East Tampa Urban Village, and they're all in Evacuation Zone E. The subject site is located here. All of the blue is the public, semi-public designation, and all of the red is the community commercial 35 designation. The proposed CI uses can be considered on parcel 5, which is within the CC 35 designation completely, which is this parcel. The subject site is also within a mixed-use corridor. The comprehensive plan promotes pedestrian safety and encourages commercial development that enhances the City of Tampa's character and ambiance. The comprehensive plan promotes compatible development and redevelopment to sustain stable neighborhoods and ensure all social and economic health in the city. Planning Commission staff have reviewed the application and found no adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood, and the request will not alter the character of the surrounding area. Policy direction in the comprehensive plan encourages non-residential uses to remain sensitive and compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed PDE proposes a fence on the southern and northern boundaries to remain sensitive to the adjacent uses, meeting the intent of this policy direction. The PD is comparable and compatible with the existing development pattern and is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And that concludes my presentation if you have any questions.
Staff have any questions? Hearing none. Applicant, please.
Good evening, Cammie Corbett with the law firm of Hillward and Henderson, and congratulations, Councilwoman Young. Welcome. This is a little bit unusual. I'm not going to give a lengthy presentation.
Thank you.
I represent, I just want to give some background because this one does look a little weird and it's different than some that you have. All of this property is owned by what is now IBIS Healthcare, which is mental health care, the organization commonly known as Grace Point. The evolution of this PDA was to allow for them to build 2 affordable housing complexes on these parcels. They were all CG or CI previously, and they were able to successfully develop 2 affordable housing projects they wouldn't otherwise have been able to develop because Henry is a local road. In that, we realized that on parcel 5, we actually have existing warehouses that we inadvertently made legal, non-conforming, and when we realized that, we wanted to modify that and add back in the CI uses, limited CI uses, excluding those that are a detriment to Grace Point's activities. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions.
Council have any questions? Councilwoman Young.
In the pictures, I saw a lot of trees. Are you all gonna have to take those out?
No. There are no tree removal associated with this PDA. There's a note on the site plan that says any tree removal has to go through in a PDA, you have to go through a next process called an incremental review, and things like traffic and trees all get looked at that time. I think the tree that you saw, the biggest tree you saw is actually in the cemetery to the north.
Okay.
So, but they have tried to preserve the trees as much as possible, so.
It's a very treed lot.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Is anybody in the public wishing to speak to this item? We have a motion to close. Councilman Maniscalco, second from. Second from Councilwoman Hurtak. Anticipation. You have to wait that little pregnant pause there. All those in favor to close, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Councilman Carlson, I would like you to read this without looking at the numbers. I know you memorized it from when staff read it.
How to do that. Can I say number 9, file number REZ 25-108? Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 5705 and 5707 North 22nd Street, 2206, 2208, 2212, 2212B, 2214, 2215, 2400, units 100-338, 2401, 2403, 2815, A1-A4, 2815, B1-B4, 2815, C1, 2815, D1-D10, and 2905 East Henry Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification PDA plan development alternative to PDA plan development alternative business professional and medical office congregate living facility residential treatment facility recovery home A and B life care treatment facility residential multifamily hospital daycare school and for parcel 5 only all CI uses providing effective date.
We have a motion from Councilman Carlson, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Clerk.
Okay. Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 4th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you. I think that's the most numbers I've ever seen in one. That was a lot of numbers. Yeah. Now, question, I know I promised you guys a break, but it's 6:55. I think this one's gonna go pretty quick too. Do you think we just push through for the last one? Yeah. We're gonna hear them both together, so I think this is gonna go fast. So, staff, go ahead.
Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 11 is REZ 2524, request to rezone 3075 North Rocky Point Drive from PD for residential multifamily to PD for residential multifamily and high-rise uses. This application was originally scheduled for public hearing on July 24th, 2025. The applicant requested a continuance to work with staff on site plan modifications and site improvements. Here's an aerial view of the subject site and the surrounding area. You can see the subject site here, outlined in red. It is on the east side of Rocky Point Drive. The subject site is currently an existing 176-room hotel. The development pattern in the immediate area of the subject site is a mix of residential and commercial uses. North and west of the subject site is comprised of 2 to 3 story multifamily units, and south of the subject site is Tampa Bay. Southwest is a 1-story restaurant. Here's the site plan provided by the applicant. I'll provide a brief background. The applicant requested a continuance to work with staff on the site plan modifications and site improvements, which resulted in the following outcomes. Reduction in the number of waivers requested from 6 to 4 waivers. Reduction in the number of required parking spaces, converting some spaces to compact, therefore reducing the waiver requested from the previous plan submittal with 544 spaces required to 456 spaces provided. Please note for the record, there's a correction in reduction percentage. This should have been 16% reduction to the current plan with 438 spaces required and 412 spaces provided, which is a 6% reduction. Removal of parking spaces located south of the entry drive to provide a 15-foot landscape buffer, which you can see right here. Reduction in number of units provided, eliminating 6 units. Elimination of drive aisle with width reduction, now providing code required drive aisle width. Elimination of multifamily green space waiver, now exceeding code required green space, and elimination of waiver to pay into the tree trust fund. The applicant proposes multifamily and high-rise uses. The existing structures on site will be demolished. A 13-floor, 399,024 square foot building is proposed with 1 point of ingress and egress on Rocky Point Road. The building is proposed for 294 multifamily units on floors 3 through 13. Surface parking is proposed surrounding the building on the north, west, and south. Parking is also provided within the proposed structure within the first 2 floors. The main entrance and leasing office, which I can zoom in here a little, are right here on the ground floor in the northwest portion of the building. A dog run is located here to the east, and green space and waterfront amenities are proposed to the south. Pedestrian connectivity is provided throughout the site with proposed 6-foot sidewalks that include a connection to the waterfront. A crosswalk is also provided on North Rocky Point Drive. The subject site has a future land use designation of CMU 35, which allows for standard development of up to 1.0 FAR or 30 dwelling units per acre by right, and up to 2.0 FAR with bonus provisions met. Given the uses proposed and the project may be determined by either density or FAR, the applicant has entered into a bonus agreement in order to achieve the 2.0 FAR. Next, I'll show some elevations. Here's the east elevation. This is the south elevation. This is the west elevation. And then this is the north elevation. And then I will show a few photos of the site. It is a large site, but I have condensed down the photos.
Thank you. See how she looked at me?
Yes.
It's that residence center kind of.
I think it's a Chase.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yes. So here's the entrance to the site. This is internal to the site, looking at northwest down towards the entrance. This is internal, looking east at the existing hotel that is on site. This is looking at the entrance from across the street of Rocky Point. This is looking east at the southern border of the property. You can see Tampa Bay right there. This is looking east at the adjacent townhomes. This is looking north internal from the southern end of the site. This is another view internally, looking northwest. This is looking west from the site. This is looking southwest down North Rocky Point. And then this is looking at the opposite way down North Rocky Point. And then this is looking across the street from the entrance, north on North Rocky Point Drive. Development Coordination and Compliance staff review the application and find the request to be inconsistent with the Land Development Code. There are 4 waivers as part of this request. If City Council approves the application, the modifications to the site plan as shown on the submitted revision sheet must be completed between first and second reading. These revisions will not resolve the inconsistent finding of transportation. I'm available for any questions.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
So you said that there's a waiver to pay into the tree trust fund. Can you explain that?
They eliminated the waiver.
Okay, like that I have to hear about.
I'll just show you this. Okay, Aaron Mayer Development Coordination, they did have a waiver to pay for any of the required trees they couldn't plant. But as you would recall, they had a waiver for green space, so they were reducing the required green space. Now they're providing more than the required trees. This is their landscape plan, and I'm showing that there's at least 61 of the required 84 trees they're showing to be type 1 trees now. Yeah. It is really good. And we've spaced them out to meet the code requirements, and these are feasible trees to be planted. So
Okay.
I supported the
Okay,
project.
thank you. And then I had another question about the bonus provision. Can you explain the bonus provision?
I believe Susan Johnson Velez Legal Department, I believe the bonus provision agreement will be a payment of $2.8 million into a CIP project that's identified in the agreement.
Okay, so what is the CIP project?
Why don't we wait to the applicant, are we done with staff, and we'll get the applicant on? Hold on one second, can you just hold the question?
Yeah, I'll wait.
Okay, and one.
Thank you.
No, you're good. Thank you very much, that was an appropriate amount of pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. Did you have something else you wanted to add?
I have
Are you done?
I haven't even started.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, wow.
Never mind, I'm so tired.
She's gonna dazzle you.
You gotta dazzle me. See, you've already dazzled me so much that I'm brain dead. I'm no fun Shelby.
Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff. This site is in the West Shore Planning District, the West Shore Business District, the Coastal Hazard Area, and Evacuation Zone A. The subject site is located here, represented under the Community Mixed Use 35 designation, which is to the east of the subject site. To the north, the west. To the north and east of the subject site is the residential 35 designation. This blue line is the jurisdictional boundary between the city of Tampa and the unincorporated Hillsborough County, which this designation is residential 4. Multifamily uses can be considered on this site, and the proposed 2.0 FAR is consistent with the intensity anticipated under the CMU 35 designation. The site is currently approved under a PD that allows 2 14-story condominium buildings with a combined total of 161 residential units. The proposed PD amendment would allow for a single 13-story multifamily residential building with 300 units, including 2 levels of structured parking. Planning Commission staff finds this revised height consistent and compatible with the surrounding development pattern. The site is within a mixed-use corridor, which has an emphasis on pedestrian-friendly, street-oriented design. While the site is in a regular shape and has access via a 20-foot wide drive aisle, the applicant has made an effort to address the mixed-use centers and corridor policies. A 5-foot sidewalk is proposed leading to the building entrance. An additional sidewalk is planned along the southern boundary to the waterfront. A pedestrian connection is also provided from the waterfront to the sidewalk to the building entrances on the west. Planning Commission staff find that the mixed-use centers and corridor policies have been addressed. The request supports many policies relating to the housing the city's population within the comprehensive plan and ensures an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations. The proposed PD is consistent and is comparable and compatible with the development pattern anticipated under the CMU 35 designation, and that concludes my presentation. If you have
That
any
was a
questions.
wonderful presentation. Anybody questions? Okay, good. Susan, do you want to add something?
So, well, Susan Johnson Velez, Legal Department. So just to answer Councilwoman Hurtek's question, so under the bonus provision agreement, in order to achieve the bonus FAR of 2.0, the developer will pay $2,858,009.40, and it will be applied towards the CIP project Lois Avenue, Cleveland Street to Boy Scout Boulevard, and there's the project ID number is identified in the agreement.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
And then I know council's going to hear these two items together, so item number 12 on the agenda is a notification of proposed change to a previously approved development of regional impact. So I'm going to try to be as brief as I can and not complicate it too much, but developments of regional impact, I know some of you who have been on council for a while might remember these. They are a creature of statute that were a really big deal about 40 years ago, but starting in about 2008, the legislature gutted and started repealing the DRI statutes. And so now we're converting them as they come in for modification. That we are approving them as local orders. So the city will have jurisdiction over these development orders now. So this request for proposed change relates only to this parcel within the larger development of regional impact. So all of the changes that were requested are for parcel, what's identified as parcel J. And I've just got a quick map here that shows that it's in the staff report. So parcel J is here, and you can see that it's identified just by the cross-hatching here for hotel, motel, and residential. But the applicant does not have enough multifamily entitlements to allow for the development pursuant to the DRI. So what they have requested in this amendment application is to modify the development of regional impact to take some office entitlements and convert those to multifamily entitlements. And so it's a mechanism that's built into the DRI. It mainly deals with transportation impacts. And so it's an equivalency matrix. I know Mr. Cohen is here and can probably do a better job of explaining it than I can, but essentially it allows for a trade-off at a specific ratio based on no additional traffic impacts. So it's taking 49,874 square feet of office, converting those per the equivalency matrix to residential for parcel J only. So if another parcel within this DRI were to come in and want to do the same thing, they would have to come to council as well and seek a similar type of amendment. And then the remainder of the changes in this application are really kind of housekeeping. They extend the build-out date for the DRI, and they make changes to the graphic depiction of the DRI, which is really this. And it will show that now multifamily residential are allowed on parcel J, this parcel only. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure, again, Mr. Bentley or Mr. Cohen can answer any other more detailed questions. And staff found the request consistent. So.
I have a question about, I think we talked about this during my prep meeting, PDs, old PDs being able to keep their waivers for a new PD.
So, I think historically, this one has prior. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm, like, right now, it's a PD for two 16-story buildings. That was the current, or the previous. So my question is, if we're redoing the whole thing, why did they get to keep those waivers?
So I don't want, if you want staff to address that, but my understanding, and Mr. Bentley is saying that they are asking for new waivers now.
So
I think
different waivers,
different
not
waivers
additional. Okay,
based
sorry.
on
I
their current
misunderstood that.
project. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, very good. Any other questions of staff before we ask for the applicant? Okay, applicant.
Good evening, council. My name is Mark Bentley, 400 North Ashley Drive, Tampa, 33602, representing the applicant. I don't know, would you like the short form or the long form?
Short, long form?
Okay.
Really? Really?
Well, I can start off,
Okay, go ahead.
just give you a little synopsis, and maybe if we start off, Ms. Hurtak, fielding questions, and then we can convert into the presentation. I've got the entire
Yeah,
team
you
here.
want to start off with questions? Let's go.
So I've
Sure.
been-
I wanted to know, so what you're saying is on the PD, you are taking the old waivers off.
Right, we're starting from ground zero.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm also concerned and curious why you didn't put another level of parking instead of having so much surface parking.
A lot of that had to do with Tampa International and the height limitations.
Okay.
Okay, and just so I can explain this, is right now there's the Chase Suites. It was built about 40 years ago. It's going through demolition right now. And I've been working on this property, I guess, for about 20 years. So I handled the zoning in 2006. Like you said, it was for two 14-story towers and about 400,000 square feet and one access point. It was kind of almost a mirror image in terms of scale and intensity as what's being proposed here tonight. So the only change is back then it was 161 large condos in the range of 2,500 to 3,000 square feet per unit versus apartments. So that's really the substantive change.
So these are going to be apartments?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then I just, on the site plan, I just found it odd, I will have to say, that you have parking along the bay. Like, it's only like 6 spaces, but of all the green space, to have parking on the multi-million-dollar view space, just, I don't understand that.
I understand. I'll try and explain it, is when we came in, we were scheduled for July, and there were some concerns raised by staff, so we literally went back to the drawing board, and they really had some good ideas, and it really paid dividends, okay? It turned out to be a lot better plan. We needed waivers for trees, for landscape, things like that. So we had to sacrifice, there was this trade-off, that had to sacrifice some parking, that's why we're asking for a 6% waiver. So we were very conscious of we were trying to hit that target like 6% more or less. So whatever spaces we could squeeze in, essentially, we did that. So, it's just trying to strike a balance, essentially.
Yeah, that one just, and then obviously, what's gonna come last is that I saw 5 parking spaces for bikes in the garage. So I wanna hear your plan for, protected bike parking in a hidden or, a separate secure bike storage facility.
Okay, this is Ryan Manassi. He's Director of Planning with our law firm. Ryan, your name and address?
Ryan Manassi, 400 North Ashley Drive, Director of Planning, Johnson Pope. Good evening, Council. To answer your question, it's 5 bike racks that hold up to 10 to 15 bikes. And in that garage, and I know this is a question that you bring up all the time, so we're prepared for it. It's an enclosed and secure garage, so it still has that effect of a secure room for bicycles. But they're scattered throughout the site plan. If you zoom in, you'll see the little T racks that are through there, and they meet the code requirements and everything.
Okay, because honestly, that's why people are going to live in these apartments.
Correct.
Because they want to access the Courtney Campbell Causeway, and so you can't have enough secure bike parking, as I like to say, and you've heard me say over and over again, bikes cost thousands of dollars now. No one wants to leave their bike in a spot that could be taken.
Absolutely, and the garage is fully secured, like I said, so there's going to be ample space for bicycle parking.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Anything else you want to add?
No, sir. Any questions?
No?
One quick.
Councilman Carlson?
Did you talked about the airport, are you at the maximum FAA limit or?
Yeah, we are. The way they measure too is AMSL. Okay, they measure the height different than the zoning department. So I think we're at 176 AMSL.
It's a beautiful design, by the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You got the east-west runway 1028 that goes out that way, so that's why they have to. That's the.
I know.
Okay. East West Runway, 1028.
He just gave this like long name for, I didn't even know runways were named that
They're
way.
magnetic. It used to be 927, but the magnetic pole shifts. So then every time the magnetic pole shifts, they have to adjust the names of the runways.
Oh
Like
my
Tampa
God, my
International-
mind is blown.
Tampa International used to be was 1836. It was a north-south runway. The magnetic pole shifts. Now it's a 0119.
These are in the Pan Am days. Ancient.
No, this is still current. This is what they do. Okay, so is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item? Hearing none, can I get a motion to close? We have a motion to close, Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Carlson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Councilwoman Young, would you like to read this one? It's gonna be 11 and 12. You can do 11 first, please. And we don't do this.
Hey, Mr. Chair, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, Ms. Young. I have a documents to be received and filed, or
Please,
our
please hand it to
presentation
Mr. Shelby,
essentially.
and we will receive and file all.
Are those the ones that Mr. Manassi have filed? Okay, they're in the record.
Okay,
Sorry.
Brian Manassi, for the record, I turned it in.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Young, yep, we get REZ and then here.
File number REZ 25-24, ordinance for the first reading consideration and ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 3075 North Rocky Point Drive in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification PD Plan Development to PD Plan Development Residential Multifamily High Rise, providing an effective date.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilwoman Young, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Clerk?
Okay, motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 4th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Can inquire, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Shelby.
Madam Clerk, I did not recognize, it just came to me that I did not hear that two council members were absent. Will that be notated in the minutes when you take the votes? Yeah, well,
We haven't,
We haven't done it for any of the votes.
no,
so.
because we don't normally do that.
you don't, when council members are
No,
absent?
we don't do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they weren't absent the vote. They're
They're
absent
absent the whole meeting. We do that all the time.
Okay, well, okay, I'll.
Yeah, because it was
I'll-
noted at the beginning of the meeting that they were
Yeah.
absent.
Right, okay, that's fine. I'll just discuss that with the clerk, so I get clear for myself.
Okay. Councilwoman Hurtak, would you please read item number 12?
Yes, file number DRI 25-14823. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, approving an 8th amendment to the development order rendered pursuant to Chapter 380 Florida statutes filed by NR Chase Property Owner LLC for Rocky Point Harbor, FKA Rocky Point Office and Commercial Park, a previously approved development of regional impact, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay, motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 4th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good
That
night.
concludes our normal business. We are now going to new business. Councilman Carlson.
I want to hear what Councilmember Hurtak's going to propose about Ebor, and then we'll have.
Oh, Councilwoman Young, you have anything you'd like for new business?
I have a motion, but I think they're probably around the same. about the
Okay,
same-
I just want to, yeah.
I got a non-related.
Let's go with Councilman Young. Let's go in order we normally do then. Councilman Young? Councilwoman Young? Did you guys?
Yeah, we talked about this earlier. I was
Okay.
gonna
Bring a
make.
day?
So
She
you're
has a
gonna,
motion too.
so you want to defer to Councilwoman Hurtak?
Here about, I'll just tell you what I want to say, and then you might have a motion. Okay, staff, love you, but we're not quite done.
Love you, be quiet.
I talked to Chief Burkaw on our break, and he thought it was a good idea to go ahead and have a listening session meeting with the idea of talking about all types of options and really just letting the community be heard. He did say, though, that he has to talk to his communications team and find a date and a time. He can't just throw something out right now. So I
definitely wanted to update everyone on that conversation from earlier.
Remember when 2 years ago they had a big meeting at the Centro Studiano, which
Yeah.
has a lot of parking, and it's in Ybor, and it's an enclosed area, air conditioned, all that stuff. If they need a location, that worked out very well. So.
Yes, and so we've done that before. We've also met at one of the churches right on Palm Ave. So there are options, and I think that what we can do is just hear from the chief, who was very open to it. He's always really good at listening and communicating with the public. So I believe that we just let him do that, and then I'm sure he'll let us know when it is, and we can all attend.
Councilwoman Young.
Can I just make a comment about that real fast, or is it?
Did you have something you wanted?
I will have a motion, so I can do it after.
Okay, Councilman Carlson, make a comment, then I'm.
No, I just want, I think it would be better if we asked Chief Burkhaw to put on, let TPD's communication people run it. I've been to forums that they've run and they've gone really smoothly. If you compare and contrast that to the South Howard one, which is run by the communication department, it was a disaster. And
I think it's his communications department.
I just want to make sure that it's not politicized, and I don't think his people will politicize it. And again, they have great staff in communication, but there are people at the top that want to play politics.
Sure.
And this is not something to play politics about.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilwoman Young.
Okay, so I move to make a motion for the Tampa Police and Mobility Department to appear in person at the December 4th, 2025 Tampa City Council meeting to provide the public and City Council a verbal staff report, to be the first item heard under staff reports and unfinished business on current initiatives taking place to ensure Ybor City and 7th Avenue is a safe and pedestrian-friendly environment. Following the presentation, City Council to discuss possible options to further enhance safety for the residents and businesses. I did talk.
What was the date?
December 4th. I did talk to them to make sure that was an appropriate date, and he was okay with it.
Okay.
That's fair.
We have 5 items.
And that's the day we have police and ATU and firefighters all on the same day.
Yeah. I mean, I think we should do it as soon as possible. I agree. So I'll second it. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't want to do it next week, because that'd be too soon, but I didn't want to wait too long since this is a pressing issue. So at least just so they can put out, because we've been talking, but to actually have it out so public knows what's going on.
Well, hopefully we can have the public meeting before then.
Yeah.
Yes, that's my concern, is that I think that has to come first.
Yeah, I agree. I think the public meeting has to be first. Why don't we do this? Why don't we put December 4th, and if the meeting happens to be later, you can just simply move it to the next agenda.
Okay, that works for me.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilwoman Young, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Thank you. Anything else? No? Okay, Councilman.
I
Councilwoman Hurd.
do have something. I just want to remind you, I am passing this out. This is tomorrow. This is the Regional MPO Principals Workshop.
I'll be there.
This is absolutely critical. Every single council person has been invited, every county commissioner from every city and every county in Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Pasco.
And it's properly noticed.
It's properly noticed. If we are not at the table, we are on the table, and Tampa, Councilwoman Young, has the ability to veto this entire merging of MPOs. We have to be there. We have to be able to listen and participate. I'm planning on going. I know Chair is planning on going.
This guy over here, this bald
Are
guy
you?
over here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but anyone who can, this is one of those really important things to attend and to make sure our voices are heard. So just a secondary reminder.
Thank you.
Do you know anything? I was questioning whether to go. I've been to a bunch of these kind of things in the past on transportation. But because it's at the location it's been at, I hope that they're not going to go through some kind of hokey exercise. Do you guys know anything about the agenda and how they're going to handle it?
I have no idea. I just know that showing up and saying that the city of Tampa is actually interested in this, because that's I mean, everything we've heard is all about how Tampa,
is mucking up with the process because we want to advocate for our citizens, and if we don't show up.
Yeah, but all we have to do, are we allowed to talk about this now? Yeah. All we have to do is say what our non-negotiables are, and it doesn't have to be there. We can just tell them in our process, and we can feed them back, like
Sure.
expanding 275, and
If you're asking, do I think this is propaganda? Yeah.
But also, it's not just going for the workshop itself. It's to talk to it is to talk to our counterparts and to hear them. And it's the same thing that we're doing with the police chief. It's making sure that everyone feels heard. And I just think it's important for us to show up. So.
Well, and what Councilwoman Hurt, I'm the most pessimistic person in the world when it comes to this, right? You know how I feel about this. I mean, I'm not saying no, but I'm definitely not saying yes to any of what they're talking about. But that being said, what we run the risk of, if other people other than, let's say, Councilwoman Hurtek and naysayer Allen I think, oh, it's just those two troublemakers, or it's just those two squeaky voices. They need to hear from everybody else, because otherwise it's just the usual suspects trying to gunk up the system. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when I was on the MPO TPO, a merger like this in an area that's so big, I think about Tampa Heights and Seminole Heights and TB Next and TBX, and they felt, even though we were there till 2 a.m, they felt like their voices weren't being heard for something that was so damaging to their community with the expansion of 275. So when you have an even larger group, they're going to feel even smaller. So being that, we might be the county seat, we might be the hub, we might have the best airport, we might, all roads lead to Tampa kind of thing. I don't want our voices to be diminished, because again, I year after year with the tip hearing, you would be there till 2 a.m. with public comment, and it was hard enough on and it didn't go their way because people were supporting these projects moving forward. At first, I was the one no vote, then 2 or 3 people, then even their own TPO was turning, was not listening to them, because again, such a large amount of people came out. So I guess I get the importance of this, and anyways.
As I said, I've sat through a bunch of these meetings, T-BARTA and all the PSCA, all the Expressway Authority, and if the process isn't handled well, it's going to be a huge wasted effort. And the real issue that we have is because we can veto it to some extent, but at some point we might. Hopefully, there'll be a more functional lobbying process that we can go to, but right now the city council has no access to the lobbyists and no access to direct them. Maybe that's another thing we need to put in the charter, that we have some say into what our legislative agenda is. But we need,
this is federal, by the way.
Yeah.
So the ability for the city of Tampa to have the final say.
But the other thing is that DOT is at the table, and the main sticking point is that we have a pretty big constituent group that doesn't want us to expand 275 through their neighborhood. The last I met with these regional groups, St. Pete wants that lane so they can put BRT all the way from downtown St. Pete all the way up to Pasco County down on 275. And if we don't allow it in some way, that blocks the whole thing.
And Pasco County wants that as well.
And so they're gonna keep pushing for it. We can block it, but if we had power, if we had direct influence, I know we all have individual influence in Tallahassee, but if we as a city council had direct influence in Tallahassee, and we had access to lobbyists, we could have people talk to the governor, people around him, to try to influence DOT at the state level to come back and try to negotiate with us and find a solution. Right now, they treat us like we're a nuisance. Instead, there are a lot of different options that they can come up with.
Yeah, but tomorrow I think is one of those things, as Councilman Hurtek said, it's important to have our voices there so that it's not just 2 of the squeaky wheels that other people are listening to us, that they realize it's not just 2 out of 7, that it's at least 4 out of 7.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta show up.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman. Martin Shelby.
No fun, Shelby.
I don't want to say publicly what I think NFS stands for, to my way of thinking.
No fun shall be.
Anyway, council, I just want to let you know that, this was brought to my attention. I did reach out to the organizers and found out about noticing. What I did was I took it upon myself to have it noticed downstairs and on the city website for your protection. I just want to
Appreciate that, by the way.
I unfortunately, well, not for unfortunately, but I'm not going to be able to be there timely. I'll be there as well as when it's underway.
You'll be
So-
there in spirit.
No, I'll be there. But unfortunately, I have prior commitments that I have to be with. I'm going to be with the budget committee on a
You don't have
fact
to
finding.
explain.
No, but what I'm asking you to do is this. Remain mindful of the sunshine law. Not everybody does. And I don't want council, particularly if it's going to find itself in a position where it's going to have to advocate, to put itself in an adversarial position. So I'm just saying remain mindful. No private sidebars between you, please, especially if they break you out into groups to be able to talk with each other. And anyway, just remain mindful that
Well, we can publicly, as long as we're all in the same room, on the same microphone, and listening to the same thing.
Exactly.
It's been noticed. We can
Exactly, but I've been to some sort of these groups where they break everybody into separate tables, and then you talk amongst yourselves, and if it's a true public meeting, then nobody has the opportunity to hear what everybody's saying until you all come together.
Okay.
So I'm just please just remain mindful, because ultimately it is your responsibility, and that's all I ask. I just don't want Tampa city council members to be,
Okay.
targeted.
Can I mention two quick things?
Two quick things, and we're going to Maniscalco for new business.
We also have the same problem with the TPO board, which is really unfortunate, because there's a whole other set that, now that I just am on that board, there's a whole set of people I can't talk to. The other thing, though, you all may know this, but about 15 or so years ago, I was part of an effort to keep the Expressway Authority local. We pushed through the business committee to support keeping them local. DOT, do you all know this? DOT tried to take them over. They're a cash cow, which is why the city is trying to use them to fund things like South Howard. But because we were able to keep them local, we have access to, through that board, to influence what they do. The other thing we did, though, was to get them entitlement to go all the way to downtown St. Pete. So as we're negotiating, that's not really on the table. It's been talked about, but it doesn't show up on any maps. But let's just keep that in mind in the hip pocket, because as we're trying to trade chits, maybe there's a way they could put the BRT on that instead of 275.
Very good. Councilman Maniscalco.
I'd like to make a motion to have a 10-minute presentation on January 8th, 2026, to recognize two of the most amazing people in this building, Suling Lucas Harris and Shirley Fox Knowles. They have both officially earned the designation of Master Municipal Clerk. This achievement represents years of professional development and their commitment to serving the city of Tampa. We cannot do what we do here every Thursday without them and their staff. Lisa Morris, the FACC Central West Director, will be in chambers to present the pins to them. A big congratulations to Suling and Shirley. And the reason why it's January 8th and so far out is because that's Lisa Morris's earliest date that she can be here in person, so we can properly honor them.
That's very, so I read that, and I thought that was so neat. That
Love
she
it.
did that, yeah.
Yep.
So we have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco. Who would like to be the second? We have a second from Councilwoman Hurtak. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have unanimously. Congratulations. I look forward to that.
Motion to receive and file?
And that's all you have? Motion to receive and file from Councilman Maniscalco. Second from Councilman Carlson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
Pause because everybody wants to stay.
We are at 7:35 p.m. on November 13th, 2025 adjourned.